if you weren't aware at this time. I don't know how exactly I want to do this. I should have planned ahead of time, but I think I'm going to say my intro, or maybe I'll talk a little bit about my project. So for my project, I made a children's book, and due to technical failures, I could not present it in the way I wanted to, but we're just going to roll with it. So what I did was I wrote some stories that I'm going to read, and I made some illustrations, and the illustrations are actually based off real photos I took on the trip. So the idea would be to have them side by side, but what I'm going to do is click through as I complete each story and show you the real photo after the illustration. Okay. For those of you who know me or have talked to me or read my blog, you know that I love stories. I love telling them and I love hearing them. They're a huge part of who I am. So when I was deciding what to do my project on, I knew it had to be something to do with stories, and that's just what I have here. So I hope you enjoy. My name is Jorge. I'm a boy. I'm 8 years old. I live in Ecuador in a place called Bua. I live here with my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle, my aunt, and my little cousin. 2 days ago, my grandmother asked me to fetch water from the well in our backyard. I threw the bucket over the edge and heard it hit the bottom. As I pulled on the rope and the bucket appeared, I saw that there was no water in it. I ran back into the house to tell my grandmother. I could hear my grandfather and her whispering about the lack of water while I watched cartoons on TV. My grandfather spoke longingly of a time when he could live off the land and didn't have to go into the city to get food. My mother works in the city where we get our food, and I don't see her all that much. When I do see her, she yells at me to practice my Spanish because she says that is the only way I'll ever get a job. I don't speak Spanish. I speak Safiki, but I am learning Spanish in school. My older neighbor Kevin goes to a high school in the city, and he says they only teach in Spanish there. The thing is, I like getting to speak Safiki with my grandparents, but I also like being able to order ice cream in Spanish when I go to the city with my mom. When I grow up, will I have the choice to speak both? This is Ecuador, and this is Thailand story. My name is Mei Sang. I am a woman. I am 6 years old, but I was a child once. Now I'm a mother to a child. I'm a rice farmer in a community called Donjeong in the outskirts of Chiang Mai, Thailand. When I was younger, this village was teeming with children, filled with the sounds of pattering feet and joyful squeals. But now the community is quiet. There are only 3 children now. The children we raised have left us for the cities and the more glamorous lifestyle they offer. Our lifestyle is not glamorous in the eyes of our children. I wake up day in and day out and tend to my fields. I live off my land and I don't make much on the side, but for me, that is enough. But it is not just the lifestyle that our children do not want for themselves. There's a stigma surrounding the darker skin that comes with tending the fields every day under the hot sun. There are many bleaching products in the city that wash away the color of hard work. Despite this, our community ties are strong and we work together side by side so that we can live well. We help each other farm our rice fields during harvest season until every single grain of rice has been plucked from its stalk. This sense of community is so rooted in our culture and our history that we all find ourselves desperately scrambling to save it. For if there is no one here to carry on when I am gone, will my culture go with me? My name is Renisha. I am a girl. I'm 8 years old. I live in India in a city called Jaipur in the state of Rajasthan. I am sitting on the floor of my school struggling to learn basic multiplication in a language I don't understand. I beg my teacher Shivraj to help me, but he refuses, saying it is a waste of time to teach me. Why am I a waste of time, but the boy next to me is not? How am I expected to learn math in a language I don't understand? It's hard enough to learn in Hindi. Am I a waste of time because I am a girl? I think about it and realize that every female person I know in my life is a housewife. My mother, my aunts, my friends' mothers, my cousins. When the teacher asks us what our parents do, every single person in my class utters the phrase, "My mother is a housewife." Does this teacher not see me as anything but that? I mean, I enjoy being a girl and all that comes with it, the pretty dresses, the dancing, the cooking, the cleaning, and taking care of my younger siblings. But I don't think that's all I want to do with my life. I want to do more, and who is to say I am a waste of time and shouldn't be taught multiplication? My name is Sophie Wei. I'm a girl. I'm 11 years old. I live in a township in South Africa. I am Xhosa, which means I am black. Every morning, I have to wake up before the sun to catch a bus to my school, even though there is a school a 5-minute walk from my house. I have to do this because the school near my house is an Afrikaans school and I speak Xhosa. Most of my friends go to the Xhosa school with me, but when I was little, I used to play with my friend Amia, who is colored and speaks Afrikaans. We would bike around the neighborhood all evening long. At the end of our play, I would go back to the left side of the township and she would go back to the right. She lives in one of the government-built houses on the colored side of the township, while I live in what is referred to as an impermanent settlement. But now Ami and I aren't as close as we used to be. When we play games with all the neighborhood kids, we have to decide whether to play a Xhosa game or an Afrikaans game. Sometimes when we play a Xhosa game, Amia isn't able to play with us because she doesn't understand. I still consider Amia one of my best friends, but things are just different now and we both are feeling it. Will the color of our skin continue to define our friendship as we grow older? After sharing these stories, someone asked me, why these stories and why children? I was really pissed off because someone had finally asked me the question I had been grappling with all week. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you my current answer to this question, although it seems to be ever evolving and will probably continue to do so long after this trip is over. First off, I'm a big kid. I'm one of the oldest in the group, but I don't always act like it. I sleep with a blankie, and I'm proud of it, and have for the last 19 years of my life. I wear Crocs, I love puzzles and coloring. I got a Lego set, Play-Doh, and gummies for Christmas this year, and in every country that we traveled to, I could usually be found playing with kids. In admitting this, I thought I had chosen children because they would be an easy subject for me to write about, since I had spent so much time with them. But then I came to this conclusion. I think I decided to write about childhood and children because I had always thought of it as a time filled with innocence and blissful ignorance. However, with experience after experience, I began to witness some of the issues that kids were facing at such a young age. It forced me to realize that maybe these children didn't have the same extent of that ignorance that I did as a child. And as much as I didn't want to think about it, I started to recognize that perhaps I was living in a time of blissful ignorance before this year. Reflecting on all the things I learned this year has been a hard and at times painful process. I had just failed to see so many things, some that were right up in my face at home and some that were only brought to my attention after going abroad. I just felt that I had failed myself in so many ways, and I think that these stories were trying to address that failure. I had failed to realize that Spanish was in fact not the language spoken by everyone in South America, that there were tribal languages like Safiki that were spoken before the Spanish colonized the continent. I was unaware that a culture that is so deeply rooted in the history of a country could potentially be destroyed by cities and globalization. I thought I had a decent amount of knowledge on the oppression of women in India, but I could never guess that it affected girls at such a young age. And furthermore, I would never expect that a teacher would tell me that it was a waste of time to teach a student of mine, for in the education system that I grew up in, everyone was made to feel that their progress counted. And finally, I could never guess that racism could permeate a society and a country so intensely that children's identities could feel completely defined by a slight variation in the color of their skin. There are so many other things I learned on this trip that can't be put into a simple story because it took the story of these 7 months to learn just what it was I didn't know before. But I do believe there's one thing I know now, and that is that ignorance is bliss, but it's no way to go through this life. Thank you. Oh, any questions? Please don't peg me on the hard one. Looking at you, Dad. Yeah. Yes.
Did you take these pieces when you came back, or did you bring art supplies with you?
No. I made them this past week. There was a lot of scraps on the floor of the cabin that people were not happy about. Oh yeah.
With a Swiss Army knife.
With a Swiss Army knife, yeah. I didn't have scissors, so.
No scissors?
Well, they were baby scissors, yeah.
They're small.
Yes. But these are the real drawings. And just one thing about the stories is I actually have pictures from the trip that I had wanted to show too. A lot of the stories I was talking about was like, I made the characters up, but they were based on like real experiences and like a lot of children I had met. This is my host brother, Hussein. He was a wild one. He was like, looking back on him, he was a lot of fun. In the moment, I was like, what am I doing here? This is the worst babysitting job I've ever had. But he taught me a lot, and like, I don't know, he was a lot of fun. But then in Thailand, there were no kids. So that was like a different experience, and like talking to the adults in that community, you just like really felt like the loss of like having no young people in the village. It was just kind of like a sad thing for everyone to deal with. And then in India, I was around kids 24/7, which made me reevaluate my love of kids. But I still do love them. They're a lot of fun. And then Kate and I talked together in a class. That was our class, and it was actually based on a student who the teacher had actually come up to me, and I was like, "Oh, can I take her aside and try to teach her multiplication?" And he said, "Why would you want to do that? She's just a waste of time." And it kind of like hit me that someone could say that about like a child, and like she has like no idea. She was the girl in the dancing photo. Yeah, that was like very powerful. And then in South Africa, yeah, we were hanging out with adults a lot, but there's also a lot of kids. Mara and I kind of ran an after a workout class in our front yard sometimes, and that was a lot of fun. But you really could feel like the divide between the races there, and it's just like obviously it's like a systemic and historic thing, but it was just like kind of powerful to see how much it affected like young people. So yeah. Yes.
In your story, you sort of crafted the story so that the young girl in India, like her own awareness of the circumstance, which is that she wasn't viewed as equal to the boys. Was that something that you have actually heard from some of the girls? This sort of consciousness that they were a different class of citizens?
Yeah, I've like struggled with this. Well, Mara and I did a project together called Girlhood, and it was like just about like being a woman in India. So I didn't get to talk to like the younger kids because we didn't really learn much Hindi. So it was like kind of a lack of communication between, as you probably all heard from some projects. But I don't know if they're like totally aware, and I don't know if any like I was just talking to my dad about this because he just read mine and was like asking me all these annoying questions that were actually really good questions, but. I don't know if like all the children are aware that like all the questions I brought up, like if that's like something they consciously think of, or if that's just like my perception of it, which is why I like had to make this like the stories are obviously fictional, but I do question it a little. I don't think the girl I'm specifically talking about really, yeah, I don't think she had awareness, and like she didn't quite want to learn multiplication, but I was like, come on, we can do this, like you can figure it out. But I don't know, it's a tough question, and I didn't really get to explore it fully. In South Africa, I think there's definitely an awareness, like it's very a part of like who they are, and we like experience that with some of the kids, but I don't know if they quite fully understand, and I don't quite fully understand obviously because I'm not from there and I'm not a kid growing up there, but yeah.
I heard you say, and maybe some other people earlier, that the shade or tone of the skin color was the difference between people who are colored and black. But forgive me if this is not the right question, but
Yeah.
if weren't the kids who were the colored, didn't they also have Afrikaans?
Yeah, so
isn't that cultural difference as big as the variation in the skin color?
No, that's what I wonder too, because a lot of times like we'd be walking around and like we had one girl who we hung out with a lot, and she actually like had a darker skin color than like some of the like black people, and she was considered colored, but she spoke Afrikaans, Xhosa, and English, so she was trilingual. She's obviously like a rare case where she can speak all three, but it did become like a lot of like a language barrier, but they have like English as a common barrier, and even when they could have that, it ended up being like that people chose just not to like interact with each other. And it's also a big divide, like in our township it was like a huge property divide, so it was like there was a very large split, and Mara and I lived like right on that split, so it was just like interesting to see like the different sides.
Is what you're saying is that you think the cultural differences between being having white ancestors and learning different languages are as strong as the racial differences, or are they more important, or are they less important, or I
don't know. Yeah, because they're just so tied. Like that's the thing. I've never seen like races tied. Like because in like the U.S. it's not tied to like a language. It's just tied to the skin color. But I don't know. That's a tough question. Yes, Leah.
So when you were talking about how the women would be like house moms, would it be like the women would be house moms and the men would go out and work all day?
So when we asked our kids like what their parents did, and the responses were like my dad is a builder, my mom is a housewife, and every time it was like my dad is something and then my mom is a housewife. So I don't exactly know. In my host family, both the parents were doctors, so I didn't get to like exactly live with that. Yes.
So
I said to Mark, my husband, when Mara left, that she would leave as a child and come back as an adult. And then Hannah's parents today said, we're very happy that that childlike sense of, or being a child was really preserved in Hannah, and was excited to see that. What do you think about yourself? Do you think you're coming back as an adult, or?
No, I'm still a very large kid. Yeah, no, I'm a big kid. But no, it is. I think like the conversations.
In a nice way.
Yeah.
In a way that made me cry, and I felt, oh, I'm so wrong about my adulthood theory.
No, I mean it's true. Like I think like some of the conversations I've been having with like my parents are like more adult conversations than maybe I would have had before, and like I think that's like really cool. But at the end of the day, I'm still like 19, and I still like to do all my fun things. Yes, sir.
Well, since I've already asked you all the questions I want to, you Blanky to college.
Yeah. I know how you feel about the blankies, Rachel. But I stand by the blankie thing. It's a great thing. I know. No, Katrina didn't bring her blankie in. I found her snuggling my blankie at times. So that was, yeah. It was called blankie time. She had reserved blankie time.
I love your blankie.
Yes, Jackie.
Was it intentional not to give any of the children faces?
Yeah, I thought, well, intentional in a sense that, I don't know, it's ambiguous, but I also think it was a lot of like, I didn't exactly know whose faces to put on it because I didn't really want it to be the exact people I was talking about. So
you told the story through the eyes of the children.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And you talked about talking with adults, having conversations with adults. And I guess I'm wondering, in those conversations, especially with adult women, on that dashboard from acceptance to resistance, where did you find some of those adult women about some of those experiences of not being worthy of education or not having a lot of choice in what they did? How were those conversations for you?
It was kind of hard because like I was a part of the project, but I didn't get to be part of the interview experience. But like from like the interviews we watched, like I don't know, you guys can jump in and maybe help me, but it's like a consciousness of like the divide, and like we also had a bit of an issue because our like subgroup that we were interviewing was very specific. And they're from a specific class and from a specific like type of like lifestyle where they were going on to university and like going into medicine or one of those careers. So they weren't like, it was interesting to talk about it. It's definitely like people are aware, and we went to the literature festival and like heard a panel of women speak about it. So it's definitely an issue. I just like, I don't know how like if there's like people who are trying to. Yeah, I mean there are definitely like I don't want to like invalidate anyone. It's just like it's just hard because I only did see a subset of people. Yes.
In India, when your teacher told you that like the girl wasn't worth your time, did that make you focus more on the girls in your class because you felt like you had to like push back?
Well, he also told me a boy was a waste of time, but that was because Gadu never did his homework. So, but I always wrote good Gadu on his homework when he wrote it, and he loved that. So then I got him to do his homework. But I don't know. I think like it did impact me, and like for my project, it was like I had taken a lot of photos of like profiles of girls in my school because we thought we were going to use them in our project, and we didn't end up. But it was just like interesting. Like the teachers were like, well, I don't get why you just want pictures of girls, and I was like, well, it's just for a project, and like they were just kind of confused like why I would be focusing on girls, and like my class would divide was like 4 and like 4, so it was like pretty evenly split between boys and girls. So I don't think I focused more. I think I focused more on her, but I don't know. So interesting question.
Right, the last one.
Okay.
What's the role of education as a weapon of oppression?
What kind of question is that? That's a project worthy. Like that's a question worthy of an entire project, not a.
It seems like that's like when we were speaking to you through these experiences, you could see like how in these societies that was really coming through. That,
Yeah.
You talked about in South Africa the language differences and how even if a child spoke Kosi, it was a little darker.
Kosa.
Getting to the English speaking school, they wouldn't let her in.
Yeah.
So it became clear to me that that's really what it was. It was
Yeah, total oppression.
and you can see that
We had like lots of seminars on it, and I've seen like both sides, and I don't have a Zuzu. I believe that it is or it isn't, but I don't know. It's hard for
Can you
me.
just repeat your very last statement? Ignorance is.
Ignorance is bliss, but it's no way to go through this life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sanchez. Yeah. So we're good. Any other questions?
I was gonna give you a compliment. I know what you were planning on the side by side, but I thought it was vastly more impactful to be able to really focus on your art and then see the reveal afterwards.
Right.
I thought it was
Okay.
vast.
Well, I'm glad it worked out that way. All right. Thank you. Oh, I hate technology. How do you do anything here?
Just go to that.